Why on earth would you possibly get married? Caleb, why do you talk about getting married? Oh my God, let's talk about that. I'm Caleb Jones. This is Alpha Male 2.0. Freedom-focused lifestyle design for men. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. We do 5 videos a week here on how to make your business life and your woman life more free, because you need both. By the way, we are doing an online course drawing giveaway right now. This is my online course on how you can set up your own location-independent business. It retails for $1,400, and you might get it for free. All you need to do is be a subscriber here at YouTube, like this video, and leave a comment on this video. Every 2 weeks, I will announce the winner at the YouTube community feed here at my channel. Why get married? What is the point? I get this question a lot. I have written articles answering this question. I'm getting this question a lot on YouTube as we get a lot of new eyeballs and viewers to this content. A lot of guys are confused, and they're asking, why do you talk about getting married? I get dating non-monogamously, I get that. I get location-dependent income, I get 5 flags, I get all this stuff. Why are you talking about getting married? Men should never get married. What the fuck? So I get a lot of questions about this. Matter of fact, I have an entire book on this, The Ultimate Open Marriage Manual. Caleb, why are you telling men to get married? I'm not telling men to get married. Let's discuss this. A few things. Number 1, top of the list. Let's cover this first. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. Let's start with this. If you are under the age of 35, you should not get married. No marriage. Now, when I say marriage, I don't just mean marriage. I mean moving in with a woman. You should not live with a woman in a romantic context if you're under the age of 35. If you are under the age of 35 and you move in with your girlfriend, or God forbid fucking marry your girlfriend, you are a goddamn moron. If you live in the Western world, in the modern era, that is almost virtually guaranteed to blow up in your face. Even if it doesn't blow up in your face, when you are a younger man, I've written articles about this, I'm not going to go into great detail about this, but when you're a younger man, you need to focus on your goals and your life. You need to build your empire, build your infrastructure, build your life. That's what you should be doing when you're in your 20s and early 30s. When you are older, then we can discuss options. But if you're under the age of 35, you should not get married and you should not live. No living with a woman. None. Woman. Don't live with a woman. You can live with roommates if you need to. That's different. Don't live with a woman in a romantic context if you're under the age of 35. That applies to OLTR marriage, the type of marriage I talk about. That applies to a traditional monogamous marriage. That applies to living with a girlfriend in a monogamous relationship. It applies to living with a girlfriend in an open relationship. Do not live with a woman if you're under the age of 35. You are insane if you do that. This is not 1952, for fuck's sake. You will destroy your life. You will cause damage to your life that will take 20 years to repair, if ever, if you do this. Don't do this. So you men under 35 should never get married. Ever, never, ever, if you live in the Western world. You could argue with me if you live in the Middle East or Africa or some parts of Asia, maybe. If you live in the Western world in the 2020s, do not live with a woman until you're 35. Now, let's talk about you men over 35. This is where things change a little bit. Caleb, why do you possibly tell men to get married? Here's the deal, and I know this for a fact. Most men, including most men in the manosphere, in the red pill world, in the MRA world, in the pickup artist world, and even in the Alpha 2.0 world, most men, and I know because I have polled these men, both officially and unofficially, most guys, when they get over the age of 35, certainly over the age of 40, will eventually want to settle down with one woman in some form or fashion. If that means real traditional monogamous marriage, that might mean that. I hope not, but that might mean that. If that just means moving in with a woman, it might mean that. If that means an OLTR marriage, it might mean that. But the vast majority of men, 80% plus, are eventually at some point going to want to move in with or settle down with, in some form or fashion, a single woman, an individual woman they want. You and I could argue about whether or not that's a good idea. You and I could argue about how some men maybe should do that and some men maybe shouldn't. Those are interesting conversations. I've had those conversations. You're correct about that. But the bottom line, the fact that you can't change, is that the vast majority of men will eventually want to settle down. That's also why I don't pay attention to men who are under the age of 35 who give any opinions about marriage, including the ones who are under the age of 35 who say, I'm never getting married. I'm never getting married. I'm never getting married. Yeah, man, that's real easy to say when you're 26. When you're 27, it's real easy to play it cool when you're 25 and say, I'm never getting married. Yeah, let's wait 20 years when you're in your 40s, and then let's see how you feel about that. Likely, you'll be living with someone by then, statistically. I don't care how much of a badass you think you are. I don't care how independent you think you are. I don't care how smart you think you are. When you're a young man, you don't know what the fuck you're gonna do 20, 30 years from now. And I'm telling you, because I know statistically, you're going to want to settle down with a woman in some form or fashion. And if you don't, you are a bizarre and rare exception to the rule. The number of men I have encountered or talked to who have gotten into their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, who have literally never wanted to move in with a woman is very tiny. There are some, and you might be one of them, but you are a bizarre exception to the rule. Why am I going over this? The problem here is that I could sit here and say, okay guys, never get married. Never move with a woman, ever. Live alone for the rest of your life, in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I could say that. I could say that, and there's some validity to me saying that. That's not a bad thing to say. The problem is, 80, 90, 95% of the audience over the age of 40 would just tune that out. They're like, yeah, whatever, no. Because that's what men want. Like it or not, men over 40 like to settle down. So for me to say, never get married ever, never move into the woman ever, never live with a woman for the rest of your life, live alone or with roommates, literally for the rest of your life, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, that would be a complete waste of my time, and no one would pay attention to that advice. So what I am forced to do is instead say, okay, all right, dumb fuck, if you want to settle down with a woman, if you really want to do this, here is the least bad way in which you do this. OLTR marriage, which we'll talk about in a second. Here is the least bad and safest way in the modern era where you could settle down with a woman. If you really want to settle down with a woman, do it this way. That actually penetrates more men's heads. Most men go, oh, okay. And a lot of men will do it. A lot of men won't, but a lot of men will. That's much more effective for me to say that than for me to say, never ever move in with a woman ever for the rest of your life, which very, very, very few men will do. Make sense? So that's why I am forced, in a way, to provide men with a model, older men over the age of 35, ideally over 40, who want to settle down in some form or fashion. You use the OLTR marriage model, which is what I talk about. Let's talk about that. So, I've talked about this before. I'm just going to summarize this very quickly. The OLTR marriage is the only appropriate and safe way for you to settle down with a woman. When I say settle down, I mean move in with a woman long term, legally married or not is not relevant. To settle down with a woman long term in the 21st century in the Western world. I am not talking about 1952. I am not talking about India or the Congo. I'm talking about the Western world. I'm talking about today. OLTR marriage. If you want to settle down with a woman, this is how you do it. This is what I have done, and I'll talk about why I did that in a second. That says marriage, trust me. OLTR marriage is just like a traditional monogamous marriage with two very key differences. Number one, it is an open marriage. You are allowed in an OLTR marriage to have sex with any women you want, whenever you want, without ever having to check with your wife. You are still sexually free even though you are married. And when I say married, by the way, I mean you are living full-time with a woman in a romantic context. I don't care what paperwork you've signed or not signed, because if you move in with your girlfriend, OLTR or standard girlfriend doesn't matter. You are living the lifestyle of a married man. So I say the word married, but if you're not legally married on paper through your state, your province, that's not relevant to me. You're living the lifestyle of a married guy. So, open marriage means you are sexually free even though you are married. You could still have sex with other women. The only thing you can't do is you can't date other women. So in Alpha 2.0 parlance, we have FBs, MLTRs, and OLTR. So OLTR is your girlfriend or wife. FB are women you're just hooking up with, who are your friends. And MLTRs are women you're dating. So in an OLTR marriage, you can't date other women, but you can hook up with other women. By the way, your wife cannot date other men. She can hook up with guys if she really wants to. Most women over the age of 40 won't. The younger girls will, but we'll cover that in a second. You shouldn't marry a younger girl. But anyway, that's the difference. Number one is, By getting into an OLTR marriage, you don't have your balls chopped off by a woman. You don't have to live a double life by cheating on a woman. You're still an alpha male 2.0. You're still free. Make sense? Second difference is financial barrier. I'll just say Fin Bear. I'm not going to type out the whole row. Financial barrier means that you have your finances and she has her finances, and there are legal, logistical, and in some cases international barriers between these two things. So if you get divorced, there is approximately 76% divorce rate today among people who get married today. So the odds are high, the odds are likely that you're gonna get fucking divorced if you get married. OLTR or not doesn't matter. So you need to protect yourself in case you get divorced. This is the challenge with traditional monogamous marriage, is that you get married under those conditions, all your finances go into a big ball. So if you have $1 million and she has $4, it goes to a big pile, $1,004,004. And if she divorces you, she takes half that. That's ridiculous. Why would you possibly do that in a society with a 76% divorce rate? You're insane. So under the OLTR marriage model, you only get married in certain provinces or areas where this is allowable, where you have a financial barrier, where if you get divorced, you don't lose a penny. This is what I have. I have an OLTR marriage. I have an open marriage. I have sex with my FBs on a regular basis, and I will for the rest of my life. And if, God forbid, I get divorced from Pink Firefly, and I hope I never do, I love her very much. She's wonderful. But if I do, I don't lose a single penny of my money. That is the only safe and rational and valid way to marry a woman, to settle down with a woman in the modern era. So if you're going to move in with a woman over the age of 35, God damn it, this is how you do it. Now, last question. Why even do this? Caleb, why did you get married? Why would a man want to get married? Now, usually when people ask this question, these are men under the age of 35, or these are men who are over the age of 35 who just went through a horrible divorce. So let me explain something. I hinted at this earlier. When you are under the age of 35, you don't know what you want yet in terms of your long-term life. So of course, when you're 23 or 27 or maybe even 31, it is valid for you to go, why would you ever marry a woman? Yes, wait 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and then you'll find out. Odds are overwhelming, you'll want this too. It's just how people are. It's a human thing. It's part of the human condition. It's not good or bad. It's bad when people do it wrong, i.e. traditional monogamous marriage where they can't have sex with other women. Like that's gonna fucking work. Monogamy doesn't work. Long-term monogamy certainly doesn't work. And you get financially raped if you get divorced, and the odds are very good that you will. That's stupid. So it's not whether or not you want to do it, it's the system under which you do it. Number one. Number two, men who are over the age of 35. I'm gonna get some of these comments in this video, I know it. Men who are over the age of 35 who have gone through a horrible divorce recently, like within the last 1 to 3 years, they will freak out too. Why would the fuck would you ever get married? Dude, wait. When you go through a divorce, and I can speak from experience because I went through this myself, you go through a period of 1 to 2 to 3 years where you are irrationally psychotic about the concept of getting married again. Of course, if you're going through a horrible divorce right now from a horrible wife or a horrible life, and you're going through all this pain and suffering, the last thing on your mind is getting married again. You're like, why the fuck? I am never doing this again. That's why you see so many men who say, I'm never getting married ever again, and then 5 years later, they do. So you are not thinking rationally if you are a man of any age, but certainly over the age of 35, where you just got divorced and you're saying, marriage is terrible, no man should ever get married. A lot of these guys in the MRA movement and things like that, these guys were just burned badly in divorces, and it was somewhat recent in their lives. I went through this too myself, by the way. Back in 2007, 2008, to early 2009, I was kind of a dick about this topic. I was going through the I hate marriage phase, and I would get on these forums and I would scream and yell at people, but don't ever get married, And I realized, wait a minute, I'm being irrational about this. I need to calm down and wait a minute. Wait a little time for this to pass so I can think rationally about this, okay? So if you're asking why possibly ever get married to a woman if you are under the age of 35, or if you're over the age of 35 but you just went through a bad divorce, just wait. Just wait and the answer will come. Now, if you're not in that category and you're asking that question, the answer is, I can give you my answer because I have this. The answer is because it makes me more happy. I have always been, this might surprise you to hear this, I have always been a pair bonding type guy. What? Caleb, what? Yes, what I mean is, the last 13 years I have dated multiple women at all times, 3, 4, 5 women at once. But even when I was dating 3, 4, 5 women, which is consistent over the last 13 years, in my case, and not all men are like this, but in my case, there was always one girl in that group who I connected with on a level that I didn't connect with the others. So I would always and I didn't do this consciously, this naturally just came about. I would always kind of connect with one special woman out of the 3 or 4 or 5 and have a deeper relationship with her. Sometimes that was an OLTR, sometimes that was an OLTR-ish relationship, sometimes that was a high-end MLTR. But I always wanted this. And I knew, because I know myself pretty well, I'm pretty self-aware, I knew that as I got older, I would eventually want to settle down in an OLTR marriage, because I knew that's something I wanted for myself. As long as I can still be a man and have sex with other women, and as long as my hard-earned money isn't at risk, I was happy to do that. I wrote on my blogs, at the Black Dragon blog, in 2012. 2012, so this is 8 years ago. This is many years before I even met Pink Firefly. I wrote an article called, you can look it up, it's still there, called How Open Marriage Works, or How OLTR, I think it's How Open Marriage Works. And I wrote out several pages on exactly the type of marriage I would like to have someday. I didn't want it then, at that moment, but I knew, and I said at the time, eventually I'm going to want this. And today, guess what? I have pretty much exactly the marriage I described in that article. You have to know this stuff of yourself. You have to know yourself. You have to know why you want to be with a woman. By the way, it is only valid to settle down with a woman when you want it and you don't need it. A lot of guys, I would say most men, because most men are beta males, but alpha male 1.0s do this too, settle down with a woman because they need to, or because they threaten him. I'm going to break up with you, you don't marry me. Okay. Or I want to be with you, but I want, and they're terrified she might leave, so they wife her up. Or they really want to have kids. Oh, I want to have kids with you, so let's get married. If you need to marry a woman, you're doing this wrong. I didn't need to marry Pink Firefly. I wanted to marry Pink Firefly. I don't need to even be in an OLTR marriage. I wanted to, and I still want to. This marriage I have with Pink Firefly makes me very, very happy. This is one of the biggest sources of happiness I have in my life, and that's saying a lot because I have a really happy life. But I did it at the correct time. I did it when I was well over the age of 35. I did it when I had already done everything else I wanted. I didn't need to do it, and I did it correctly. By the way, I got divorced in 2007. I didn't get remarried until, let's see, 2.5 years ago. So, let's see, 2018. So I waited 11 years to get married before I actually did so. As I've talked about before, throughout the many years of my Black Dragon experience, I would average 2 marriage proposals per year from 2 different women. For about 4 or 5 years in a row, women would ask me to do this. Please, Caleb, I want to move in with you. Please marry me, Caleb. Yes, you can fuck other women. Yes, I'll sign prenuptial, wherever you want to do. Please, please, please. And I told them no, because it wasn't the correct time. Because I knew that was way too early. I wasn't ready for that yet. Once I was ready, financially, and in terms of maturity, in terms of what I wanted long-term for my life and my mission, when it made sense, then I did it. Make sense? But I didn't do it because I needed to do it, and I did it correctly. Very, very important. If you want more help on making these distinctions, go to joinsmic.com. That is my coaching and mentorship program with a lot of audio training there. You can also click here to learn about what to expect when you set goals. You can also click here for the recent 3.5-hour AMA I did. See you in a little bit. Bye.